Well, hello scrappers and welcome back to my channel. Okay, what we have here is a big bowl full of incinerated IC chips. Well incinerated, well oxidized, ready to be ground up. Now normally I would get out my Hamilton Beach blender and go at them. But in some of my recent videos I've been lamenting the fact that I can't get as fine a grind with the blender as I would like. And you'll have to bear with me, it's very windy today, so there may be some wind noise in the background. So I've been looking at ways to get a much finer grind on this stuff to help liberate more gold. And you know, I've been wanting an impact mill of some sort. Been hoping somebody out there would either donate one to the cause or point me in the direction of where I could get one cheap. So far, no joy there. Thanks a lot, guys. Just kidding. But I got to thinking, well, you know, I build a lot of my own equipment. Let me see if I can build an impact mill. Then I got to nosing around in one of the long-forgotten cobweb-covered corners of my workshop, and I found a piece of equipment that I haven't used in a long time. And I thought, you know what? I could make an impact mill out of that. And I'll show you what I did. Yes, it's a vibratory tumbler. Give you a better look at it. It's one of the cheap Harbor Freight ones. The bigger model. I was actually using it for tumbling rocks a few years back. And decided a real rock tumbler was a better idea. I've used it for tumbling some parts too. So it's just a vibratory tumbler. Okay? Cheap one from Harbor Freight. But what I did was I put 40 1-inch diameter steel ball bearings in it. Okay? Now, if I put a generous handful or two of the IC chips in here and put the lid on it, put the lid on tight, keep the dust in and the sound down, although it's still going to be noisy, and then I start it up. Mill. That's not quick, I'll grant you that. It's going to take 20-25 minutes to turn that stuff for the most part into a really fine powder. But you know what? I could just walk away and do something else. I got to go air up the tires on the big mower and start mowing the acreage. So I can start this up, go away, do that, come back. This will be full of finely powdered ground up IC chips. So let me get it started, and we'll let it run a while I take care of some chores. Then we'll come back and we'll look and see what we got inside. Oh, and just a quick reminder, I have a second channel now called ElectroGeek64, and I will put a link to that either up here or down in the description of the video. Check it out if you're at all interested in retro computing, electronics projects, anything like that, because that's where all those sorts of projects go now, rather than coming onto this channel. So if you're coming here looking for my latest update on my Teletech System Master, or my ET3400, or any of the other projects I'm working on, go to ElectroGeek64. That's where they'll all be. And I've just uploaded some great videos there, so check it out. Thanks. Oh, that's better. Of course, it's not near as loud as the mower, which I've spent the last 25 minutes on. Got the tires aired up, gassed up, went out, took a fair swipe at the acreage. So let's see what's in here now. Grass all over me. And this time of year the grass isn't growing very fast, but the weeds sure still do. Aha! We got a tub full of some very fine gray powder. Now this is not a surprise to me. I actually tried this out the other day just to make sure it was going to work. And yeah, wow, look at this. There's a few lumps in here still, but mostly it's a very fine gray powder. what that is. I don't know, ceramic might have made its way in there. Might be busting up a ceramic. So, I've got this fine gray powder now. How the heck am I going to get it out of here? Well, I have an idea. Well, I got my bucket vacuum here. I cleaned the filter on it, and it's got a clean bucket. So anything I suck up should just be IC debris. Okay, I didn't get all of it, but I got the vast bulk of it. So now I can just load some more IC chips in there, start it up again, and go mow some more. So before I start this thing up again, let's have a look inside. Uh-oh. I'll have to fix that. But yeah, there's a layer of fine gray dust down there on the bottom of the bucket. I don't know if that's showing up. And there's a lot of fine gray dust on the filter, which I'll have to brush off into the bucket and process that. What I will probably do is run the stuff in the bucket here. Oh, it goes right back on. Good. Run the stuff in the bucket through a sieve, and anything that doesn't go through the sieve will go back into the tumbler to get redone. But first, I'm going to reload the tumbler with more IC chips and run it again. Okay, here goes another load of IC chips. And I'll get this started again. Put a few more in since that worked so well. I was afraid of overloading it, but boy, it did a good job of pulverizing them. Not sure what the limit is on how much I can put in yet. But I think that'll run based on how well it's done so far. Okay, so I'll get this started up again. I'll go do some more mowing, come back, vacuum it out, put some more ICs in it, and go do some more mowing. And I'll keep that up till I get this whole big bowl of chips through it. Then I'll screen the stuff in the vacuum, put the stuff that needs more vibration in there, and run it. Alright, so this was actually running for a while. I got a little carried away on the mower there. Probably did close to an acre. See what we got. Oh, it's dusty. Ah, but it's powdery. Yep. Alright, so it processed all those chips I put in. So I'm going to vacuum this out and load it up and go mow again. And I'm just going to keep this up until I get through all these ICs. And then we'll see what we got. Okay, this method works okay, but I'm really losing suction on the vacuum cleaner. And I suspect, yeah, it's because of all the fines on the filter. I'll probably need to get a paintbrush and brush that off and probably do it just about every time I stop and vacuum out the tub over there, because this filter is just covered with dust and my suction has gone down to almost nothing. So we are getting a pretty fine grind if that's happening. Okay, let me find a paintbrush, clean that up, load that back up, get it going, and go mow some more. A couple more acres to do. Okay, a couple things I really like about this. It seems like we're getting a much finer grind than with the blender. Although, we'll have to see once I start sieving the stuff just how fine it really is. I mean, there's always some really fine ashy stuff. But it looks like we're getting a pretty good grind. And another thing is, I can just start it and walk away and do some other stuff. You know, I don't have to stand there and tend it like I do with the blender. So I can get my chores done, and I can process IC chips for gold at the same time. Cool. Alright, the chips are all ground up. They're all here in this bucket, into the vacuum. Got a dust mask on. gonna have a look in here. I got a feeling. Well, I know it's not a feeling. I know I'm gonna have to brush off this filter again and have to do it after almost every time I vacuum the load of chips out. I was gonna have to dust off the filter. I don't know if there'd be any gold bond wires in this dust or not. My instinct tells me they'd be too heavy to be up here, but you know, what the heck. I'll just dust this stuff off anyway. All up over here on the top of the vacuum. Better safe than sorry, I guess. Of course, they'll just be in here for like the next time and the next time. If this works, I'll be doing it this way all the time. Okay, that's pretty good. Set this aside for the moment. And there we are. I hope that's showing up. All those IC chips in that big bowl have been ground up and they are now in here. And what I got to do is I got to sieve this stuff now and get out stuff like that, lead frames and things. But at least, oh wow, there's a lot of stuff there. But at least it's not all balled up like with the blender. It's flat, which is nice. All right, let me get my sieves and see what we can do with this stuff. Okay, you'll have to bear with me. There's some background noise. We got a crew cleaning up some tree debris here on the farm. Okay, I got a sieve here. I think it's about a 10 per inch. So we'll start with that. See what goes through it and what stays behind. I might just have to get a scoop and scoop some in. Well, almost all of it went through. That's nice. Just a few bits on the surface, and a lot of it I can tell is metal. That looks like a chunk of metal. I see some metal leg debris. I thought I saw something that looked gold plated in here, but now I can't find it again. There it is. That looks like a piece of copper with some gold plating on it. Alright. Alright, let me get a scoop so I can scoop stuff into here. That'll make life a little easier. Alright, couldn't really find anything to use as a scoop. So I can see that some larger stuff has made it through. I'll just use a beaker here. We may have to sieve this multiple times with different sizes of sieves. I don't know. Alright, so this time we got a lot of metal. I mean, there is a lot of metal here. It's almost all metal. And there's a few lumps that aren't metal. These look like maybe bits of IC chip that weren't fully incinerated. Those might have to go and get re-incinerated. And there's some other lumps here that don't look like they were fully crushed up. But there's a lot of metal here. Boy, there's a lot of metal. Okay. Get something to put this metal in. Set it aside. I had already set aside some bits of metal that were clogging up the vacuum as I was vacuuming out the tub. There's a big copper heat sink. Some chunks of what I assume are aluminum. Oh, they could be silver. No, they're too light for silver. And some chunks of copper. And a couple more bits of, looks like not fully incinerated IC chips. They'll have to get re-incinerated. Now, this stuff here, and just join it. Yeah. Some of this metal is really neat. I mean, it's like a tic-tac-toe board. That's copper. It's kind of weird. Here's a piece of ceramic. So a few ceramic chips must have made it in. There's a few chunks that probably need to go back through the grinder. I'll have to sort them out from the metal. Oh yeah, a lot of metal. A few big chunks. Probably need to go back through the grinder. That one probably needs to be re-incinerated. Alright. I'll just keep this up and we'll see what we got in the end. Alright. There's all that stuff sifted once. I can tell some wires and bigger pieces have made it through. Might have to sift it again through a finer screen, but there's all the stuff that wouldn't go through. And that's mostly metal. Big chunks of metal too. So also some bits of ceramic I see that made it in with my plastics. Maybe that's why I go through so many blender blades. A few ceramics masquerading with the plastics. So let me find a finer screen and see what it looks like if I screen it again. Alright, I think I misspoke up front. The first mesh I ran this stuff through was actually more like a 20 per inch rather than a 10. The label's gone off of it, so I couldn't tell at first. But I compared it to my other 20, and it's like, yeah, it's a 20 per inch. Alright, so now I've got a 30. So let's run it through a 30. This is going to take a little while because this is a much smaller sieve. And we'll see what stays in here. I'll tell you what's staying in here. A whole lot of wires is what's staying in here. Alright, well that's good. I know the bond wires are going to be small enough to go right through a 30 mesh sieve. But getting rid of those bigger wires, that's kind of nice. Alright. Yep. Yep. We're getting rid of the big stuff. And the rest of the material is going right through for the most part. I can see that there are a few wires making it through the 30 mesh sieve, but a lot of them are staying right there. Alright, good. So I will sieve all this stuff through the 30 mesh, and I think we're going to get rid of the bulk of the base metal while getting the bulk of the bond wires through. So I will just keep this up until I get it all through. Alright, it's all been sieved twice. First time through the 20 mesh sieve. That's what I got the first time out of it. This is the stuff I got the second time. This is a lot of little wires. And it's hard to see on the camera, but yeah, there's a lot of steel wires there. A whole lot of steel wires. And a lot of this stuff over here is steel too, although I can see some of it's copper, some of it's probably aluminum, and I wouldn't be surprised if there's some silver in there too. So got all that stuff out of here. Here's all the powder. It's about the consistency of flour, but it does have some steel wires that have made it through the sieve. So yeah. Not quite sure. Hard to get rid of all of them. Some of them make it through the sieve, you know, long-wise through the holes. They're pretty fine wires too. They are really, really fine wires. But getting them out without dragging a lot of gold out, I'm not sure how to do it. So I think I'll stop here with the sieving, and we'll just do my usual gravity separation on this stuff and see how much material is left after the gravity separation, and see if it's better than with the blender. I suspect it's going to be, because this stuff seems a lot finer, so I think a lot more of this stuff is going to wash away in the gravity separation and just leave a lot less heavies, which would be great, because then I could process it easier in one beaker without having to have multiple beakers, or, you know, put it in several batches. So okay, so let me get set up for gravity separation. We'll see how it goes. Alright, I have lots of videos online about how I do gravity separation my way. Other people do it differently. So lately I've been using the blender and wet grinding this stuff. So I'm usually starting out with a wet slurry. Today I'm starting out with a dry, fairly hydrophobic powder. So I need to get it all thoroughly wet before I do anything. Now I'm using the bucket from the vacuum cleaner because there was dust in here that I couldn't get out. But now it's all part of the process. So let me get this all thoroughly wet. Yeah, there's lumps of dry stuff in there. So I'm going to have to break up those lumps. I may have to just let this stuff sit for a little bit until it's fully hydrated. And then we can do the separation. Okay, I think I'm just going to let it sit for a few minutes and fully hydrate and feel around in there, make sure all the lumps are broken up, and there's no more dry bits in there. Okay, it's been a few minutes, long enough for me to go change the battery in the camera, because it was getting low. You feel around in here. I don't feel any more lumps on the bottom. I don't really see anything floating. Let me stir it all up real good. Get the crud up in the water column and let it settle for a bit. And then I'll pour it off into that bucket. Things have had time to settle a bit. Gold being 19 times denser than water is going to settle out pretty quickly. But even if some makes it over into this bucket, I'm not going to lose it. Because it'll settle to the bottom of that bucket. So let me get this stuff all stirred up again. And we'll do it again. Now it does feel like there's a lot less heavy, big stuff on the bottom of this than on the average batch of IC chips I run through the blender. I think I got a much finer grind. I think a lot of it's staying in the water column and pouring off. Hard to tell, but I don't think there's a lot of material in the bottom of the bucket. Of course, it's a big bucket, so not much material in the bottom of the bucket might actually be a lot of material, you know? So we'll wait a few seconds, let things settle, pour it off. Just constant activity here at the farm today. Okay, a brief interruption while some equipment ran by. So this has had plenty of time to sit here and settle. And I'm just going to keep this up until the water runs pretty darn clear out of this bucket. What's overflowing from this bucket is just dirty, ashy water. If any values made it into that bucket, they're in the bottom of it. So I'm not too worried. I'm just going to keep washing this stuff and pouring off the water until we get nice clean material in the bottom. The water column isn't loaded up with a bunch of ash. Done this many times in my many other videos on processing IC chips. Although I don't normally get this fine a grind. Water's getting a lot clearer. I don't know if you can see just how much material is left in this bucket. Not a lot. More than I would like, maybe for one batch. So maybe I could work on getting a finer grind yet. Maybe leave this stuff in the grinder for longer. Maybe throw a few more ball bearings in. See if I can grind this stuff a little finer. I mean, it definitely looks like finer than what I normally get, but there's still a lot of it. And I know a lot of that's just silicon die debris. And I think if I grind it even finer, this process should get rid of the bulk of it. Yeah. There's a little more material there than I was hoping would be there. Not terrible. I mean, considering the amount of chips I ran through there. There's a lot of chips. Alright, let's see about this bucket here. So most of what's in here should just be ash. I'm sure a little bit of heavy's made it over. A small percentage. We'll just do what we did with the big bucket. And we'll wash it. And then anything that stays in the bucket, I'll add to this one. Making a muddy mess here. Goodness. Not too bad. So I'll just keep this up until the water in here comes out pretty clear. And any solids left in the bucket here, I will add to that bucket there. Doesn't look like there's going to be too much in here. Nah, not too much. After a couple more washes, there'll be even less. Okay, that water's coming off pretty darn clear. I'm going to wash this mud into this bucket. Drain off the excess water. And we'll see how much material we've got here. Now I'm going to process it going forward. Okay, I'm actually pretty happy with how that went. I was thinking there was a lot of material left in the bottom of the bucket, and you know, there's some water in here, so it makes it look like there's more than there is, but I've got about 250 milliliters of powder in the bottom of this beaker, which is more than I would like to process at once. But I got to remember, I started out with a nearly full 4-quart mixing bowl full of IC chips. I did some of them off camera before I even started filming, just to see if this process was even going to work. So yeah, this was almost full. So considering I have reduced it to about 250 milliliters of powder down there, that's pretty darn good, I'm thinking. So I mean, there's no law that says I have to do it all in one batch. I can divide it up into multiple batches and process it. So yeah. Still, I think there's room for improvement. The grind isn't quite as fine as I would like. So I'm thinking just leaving it in longer might make it finer. I can do that. I can like set a timer. You know, I was just off doing chores, and whenever I wandered back this way is when I would vacuum it out and put in a new batch. So yeah. I'm thinking, like if I make sure it's in there for at least an hour or even 2 hours to a batch. You know, I don't care how long it takes. I can do other stuff. I can still grind the chips up faster than I can do several other processes involved, like incinerating them or whatever. So, yeah. See if I can get a finer grind and get rid of some more of this material in here. This IC chip debris, silica, sand, basically. Get rid of it and make it easier to get at the lovely gold in there. But I think what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to divide this stuff in half and process it in 2 batches, and we'll see how much gold we'll get out of it. Well, here I am processing the first batch of stuff through the grinder, actually the first half of it. The second half is in the beaker in the back patiently waiting, so I'll do it later. So half of the stuff from this first batch is in my Bondo big 3-liter beaker getting a nitric acid bath. And by the vigorousness of the reaction, you can see we're taking some base metal out of there. I can see some wires came through. I'm sure some of them are steel, some of them are copper, some of them might be silver. So we'll just let this go. And then once all the base metal's chewed up, I'll rinse the stuff to get all the metal salt, base metal salts out of it. And then I'll hit it with aqua regia, dissolve the gold, precipitate out the gold. But you've seen this all before. I have lots of videos out there where I'm getting gold out of IC chip remains. I'll put some links to them so you can check them out if you want. But this video is mainly about the grinder. And there may be some updates in the future on the grinder. I may try some things to get a finer grind out of it. longer time in the grinder, an hour, 2 hours, 3 hours, whatever. Maybe some more ball bearings in the grinder, maybe a little of both. See if that gets me a much finer grind. We get rid of some more of the die remains that are in there, and just, you know, leave behind more of the gold. So that would be ideal. So anyway, I'm going to get to processing this and get to working on improving the grinder. So watch out for those grinder updates in the future. Thanks for watching this video. Subscribe to see future videos, and press that little bell icon that YouTube makes you press to be notified when those videos come out. And thanks again for watching. Bye.